My name is Carl. My name is Carlton Fong. I am the co-chair of the Systematic Review of Meta-Analysis SIG of AERA, along with Derek Rogers, and we're really excited to host our December webinar. Today we have Trevor Riley, who is the head of public services at the NOAA Central Library, and today he's going to be presenting on a R package and Shiny application called CiteSource, and we are really excited to learn more about this tool and get to pick your brain on all things systematic review. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Trevor. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Carlton, and thank you to the rest of the group that has put this together and that technical crew. Really appreciate that. So I'm Trevor Riley. I'm at National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and I am the head of public services. But really, my main focus is that my lead as the research services lead. And that's a service that we put together right around the time that I joined. And that was launched to assist researchers, scientists, policy analysts, any decision makers with finding the science required, the literature required for decision making. NOAA is tasked with a number of mandates, statutory mandates like Endangered Species Act, Marine Mammal Protection Act, which do require the best available scientific information as mandated by law. So when I started and we started building the research service, I was not at that time familiar with evidence synthesis. But over time, I began questioning, right, like what really constitutes best available scientific information? And how are we making that decision? How are we really determining what information we're using when making decisions? And that took me down a pretty deep rabbit hole. And there's some really interesting literature out there on what actually defines best available scientific information, which is actually pretty fascinating. And that brought me to evidence synthesis. And so I think some of the first articles that I read on evidence synthesis were Neil Hadaway's, and he's pretty prolific in the methodologies. And as someone who supports environmental research, I was still learning a lot because it's newer for environmental research, conservation sciences, and everything. So it's well established in other areas and also still being developed. But anyway, that's my background, and but it leads to what CiteSource really is, because as I started to understand the methodologies and understand the reasoning behind the really robust, steps that we do take in evidence synthesis, I was left a little unimpressed in some ways. And it's not a, try not to critique too hard, because again, all of these methodologies we're still working to improve. But I was unimpressed in a number of respects when it came to the development of search. Because in my belief, the search is the fundamental piece of what evidence synthesis is built around. Obviously, you want a really strong scope. You want, effective and well-defined criteria for inclusion and exclusion. But the search results are what will determine what is included and what is not included. Whether you have a really well-developed scope and inclusion, exclusion criteria, et cetera, if you are not finding the right pieces, or if your search is inefficient and it's taking too long, right? These are very big problems. So I saw problems in one, things just take too long, right? Like it's it's a pretty significant problem. I think it's one of the largest problems. I think I've been on groups that have talked about rapid evidence assessment, and there's a paper coming out on defining that in conservation letters here soon too. But it's a huge problem. The time it takes to actually do this stuff. And on the other hand, I really had a problem with when I just because I search so much and have developed my own feelings about what a search should be. When I started to look at systematic reviews and systematic maps, even ones that were considered really robust and well done, and I looked at the searches and I would look at them and I'd be like, I mean, it's good, but I can't really tell, like, did they, I don't know. It was just hard to tell. Like, was that really the best way to search? I think it could probably be improved by this, and this, but I'm busy. I don't have the time to go and critique a lot of searches, and it looks like there was due diligence done. And so there was that, right? So I had kind of like, I think that we can improve search by actually validating searches and showing our work a little bit better. And I think we can speed things up. And so through the evidence, here, I'm going to share my screen now. Through the evidence synthesis hackathon. So I ran into Neil's work through the evidence synthesis hackathon. I submitted an idea to build a package, and the package was a pretty simple idea. Let's track the provenance of every citation that's found in the evidence synthesis research process, because then through deduplication, if we maintain an understanding of where each citation came from, in the end, whether it's a database or citation chasing or a call for papers or gray literature searching on the open web or whatever it may be, an AI tool that you're using now, right? So it could be any kind of method. You could track the impact of those individual sources, which could then teach us later on which are the best resources, methods, and give you a kind of a return on investment, and give you an idea of when you do a search on this topic, these are the databases, these are the sources you must search. And then it could lead to other things, like we could build better best case guidance on what type of methodology, citation chasing, and other things, and just kind of evaluate and validate our searches. So that's what CiteSource was born into, is just to provide more data-driven decision making and transparency in what I feel like is the foundation, one of the foundational parts of evidence synthesis. So awesome team through evidence synthesis hackathon I was connected with, and I'll walk you through those individuals. And so that's how this was born. So this was a project that all these members have invested their spare time on. Here's the GitHub page, so you can always come and check out all the code. It's completely open license. So CiteSource, and then we have myself, we have Lucas Walrick, Caitlin Hare, Matthew Granger, Sarah Young, and then also Neil Hadaway and Chris Pritchard. Neil and Chris helped us get things set up initially, and the rest of the team was really the development team. I myself I had not read a line of code before starting this, and over time, I've now taught myself R through developing this and working with this team. So it's also been a really awesome, I absolutely love to code now. I mean, it's so much fun. So this is the CiteSource webpage. So if you actually go here, Evidence Synthesis Hackathon, This is where you're going to find some of the vignettes for actually running the code in R. So if you're interested in actually playing around with the package in R, you can download it from GitHub. It's not on CRAN at this moment, and you can run it in R. However, one of the main things, as somebody who did not know R at the beginning and loved packages like Eliza Grames's Lit Searcher, and I initially had asked her, "Can you please build a Shiny application?" I think that's what those things are called for Lit Searcher, because I really want to use it more, but I don't know R. And so she did it. And then when I jumped into this project, this was also just one of the fundamental things. I said, we have to make this a Shiny app. We have to make sure that it's accessible. Because we're all busy and we can't all, spend time learning a language. Okay, so I'm going to walk through 3 use cases. Kind of 4. It's a mix. There's a lot going on here, but I'm going to walk through some use cases and kind of explain my thinking around some of these. So first off, you can upload RIS files. You can also upload BibTeX files, and I only use RIS files really, but the CSV once you export it out. But let's jump in here. I'm going to go to, I think all my stuff is here. Use case 1. Okay, let me throw these in here. So I'm going to upload these 6 search results. Okay, so I have one from Aquatic Sciences and Fisheries Abstract, one from Dimensions, one from Open Access Theses and Dissertations, one from Oceanic Abstracts, one from Scopus, and one from Web of Science. So when you upload files within CiteSource, it will automatically assign it a source. So there are 3 fields that are custom fields that you can assign to metadata files when you upload them into CiteSource. That is what we call CiteSource, CiteLabel, and CiteString. CiteSource and CiteLabel are going to take care of 99.9% of the use cases. So I don't really go into CiteString because it's something that I haven't even really had a need to use. And there are probably use cases out there that need 3 different variables, but really you can do everything with 2. And much of the package is built just around CiteSource and CiteLabel. So string is a little misnomer. You can test strings within source. So we'll take a look at that. So this allows you to go in and change the names. So if you wanted to change anything, but it will take it straight from the file name. And I'll show you some more of that. The label, there are 3 different labels that you can assign, or that are searches that work within CiteSource. So it's search, screened, and final. So search just represents any file that was a result of a search. So again, these are all results from databases searches, and they're not anything that have been screened at title and abstract or final inclusion. So we're going to upload all these. We go move over to find duplicates. So the deduplication process, we actually had Caitlin Hare as part of our team, and Caitlin Hare developed the ASYSD. It's ASYSD, that package for deduplication. Really fantastic. And again, she was one of the first people that I reached out to, because I said, hey, tracking provenance is really just related to deduplication, and instead of dropping records, we should just be merging things together and maintaining this information. So she was integral to this project. And if you want to learn more about how deduplication works, what I've done is kind of taken her code and broke it out into a way that you can kind of see how it works. So first, there's a few different rounds where it looks at all the citations and does some bulk matching. And then it does some checking within anything that was potentially matched to see. So these are all the different criteria. So you can look at this. I'm not going to go into this in depth. This is all available if you jump onto the Shiny, and you can see. And then there's a manual deduplication. But All right, so we did our automated deduplication, and now we have manual deduplication. And again, you can see, so this isn't the best page. I've been working on improving it with some like card view. So there's going to be some changes here, maybe in the next few months. But what it's laid out is author one, author two, title one, title two. So this is a potential pair that it just wasn't too sure on, right? Is that it's close enough. It met some criteria. It didn't meet enough criteria for it to automatically consider it a duplicate. So if we take a look at these, I've already walked through all of this so many times that I know this, but I'm going to point out a couple things. So, all right, so here I know that these two are duplicates. And then let's see, and this one is a duplicate as well. And let's take a look at this one though, like Proceeding of Institute of Acoustics, and then you have the Proceedings of the International Congress on Acoustics. So you can see that this author set, gave the same presentation and, at conferences, or, so the same paper, is in two different proceedings, same year, everything like that. But because they're not exact duplicates, and so you can kind of choose, I'll consider that a duplicate because it's the same, thing that was presented, but really it's not, because they are two different publications, two different proceeding publications. So we have this one. We also have the same kind of thing here, Proceedings in the Meeting of Acoustics, and the 11th European Conference on Underwater Acoustics. So we won't include those. I'm going to go through and include the other ones that I know. But what's cool is we actually have a table that is part of this that later on I figured, oh, this is actually a really great table to use in the deduplication process. So let's say I'm just going to grab this DOI here, and I'm going to go over, because it's not really in the best spot because we didn't really think of this initially as kind of like something that could be used for the deduplication, but I want to show you how this works. And we'll come back to it again later because it's useful in other cases. But let's say you are in the process of deduplication. You're like, I really don't know if this, these are duplicates. You can always jump over to this table and generate it, and then you can pop in any of the pieces that give you an idea of what it is, and so you can actually go straight into that item. And then take a look at, what is the differences. And let me grab another one, for example. This one only has the DOI here for that one. So that was only pulled up one record, but let me grab this piece instead, so you can actually see both records here. So another something we could improve later on too. So we can see, oh gosh, there's so many by this one author. Look at this. I'll grab the title instead. Of course. What did I just do? Okay. Goodness, sorry guys. I just navigated away. All right, well, I'm going to show that later. I'm just going to run the deduplication again real quick. And then, but anyway, so you could throw that title in there, and then you could see the two links, and then you could actually see, are they linking to the same thing? And I have another example where I'm going to show you where there's incorrect metadata for one of them, so you can actually see how that works. So I'm gonna skip through this just real quick, just for the sake of getting through this example. But we're gonna revisit how that table works. So I'm going to remove these additional duplicates, and I'm going to leave these other two in that I know are not duplicates. And then I'm going to jump over to visualization. So the first thing we have here is just a little heat plot, right? So you have out of the 359 records from Dimensions, 215 of those were found in Scopus, 181 were found in Web of Science, 57 were found in ASFA, and 52 were found in Oceanic Abstracts. So this is useful. And so you can imagine, just as a kind of like nice little overview, this is helpful. But what's really cool is when we get into the upset plot. So let's take a look at this upset plot, because again, if we're trying to learn, you could be using this at the beginning of a search, just throwing in basic keywords and kind of seeing how many records you're getting from what databases. And so I'm going to make this a little bigger too, so we can see. And you start to see things that are just going to be logical once you start to think about it, right? So we have first, this is the number of records. So Dimensions have the highest number of records, open access theses and dissertations, little table right there. And so you can see that between Oceanic Abstracts and ASFA, Web of Science, Scopus, and Dimensions, those 5 databases had 44 records that overlapped. And then you have 6 that were in everything except for Dimensions, Open Access Theses, and Dissertations. But let's follow that Open Access Theses and Dissertations down. You can see that there was 1 record, 1 thesis that was overlap between Oceanic Abstracts, ASFA, and Open Access Theses and Dissertations, and then 1 that was not in Oceanic Abstracts but was in ASFA. And then you can see that it provided 14 unique items. And so that makes sense because it's providing a unique type of material, right? They're theses and dissertations. They're not necessarily going to be held in other databases. So that makes total sense. And then you can start to, just get an idea, right? So you can, if you were to do a search and you were looking across these databases, you're like, well, what can I drop? Or does it make sense to include all of these in my synthesis project? And if you look across Oceanic Abstracts, right, over here, these are all the unique items, right? If there's no connecting dots, it means that they were found, those records were not found in any other resource. And here you can see Oceanic Abstracts has no unique dots. So that means, that's telling me that every single thing that we found in Oceanic Abstracts was found in something else. And it's kind of a trick thing because I know that Oceanic Abstracts is actually included in Aquatic Sciences and Fisheries Abstracts. So that is something that's just set up in the data to provide an example. But you can see then that it could lead to a decision that, hey, we don't need to search this resource. We don't need to add more deduplication. We don't need to add more time. And then later on, right, you could go to the table here. And let's say, as you're looking at this, maybe there's 5 unique things and you're like, right? Maybe you have 10,000 results and there's 50 unique things and you want to go, I don't know if that's really that valuable. What are those 50 things or what are those 5 things, right? And that's where, it helps speed up the process because you can go here and then you can say like, all right, well, let's take a look at, right, open access theses, dissertations, right? And I can kind of just click these on and off, right? And I can see, what those unique things are, right? And I'm going to make this a little smaller again, just because saying this. I think I'm on just a different size screen, so it's kind of a little weird for presenting. But so you can see there, I don't know why it's doing that actually. So you can just quickly jump in and then you can just, right, you can just open that up and you can see, okay, what is that source? And this one is taking me to, so these didn't have DOIs, they just had URLs for the open access theses and dissertations. Not as useful example. Let me jump in and see if this one has one. Yeah. So, all right. So that's a general idea of how you could throw in a search, right? So the search I'm using for all this, and I just want to show you because the next example is going to look at the differences between 2 searches. I used for this first search, title equals, right? And so this is built to look like Web of Science. This is the Web of Science version, but it was adapted for each of the databases so that this was the search for each one, right? So the title was underwater or marine and noise or sound and pile driving. And that was one search. Or the abstract included underwater marine, noise and sound, and pile driving. So you have those 2. And the reason I want to show this is because, right, not every, right, a lot of database, like most databases, almost all databases will take a search like this. This is a very simple, but not everything can take a more advanced kind of like nested search. And so that's what I want to jump into next. Let's go back and we'll upload a little bit of a different set of sources. But this time, we only use 3 different databases. So what we're doing here, and we'll review why, is we have Dimensions, Scopus, and Web of Science. And we apply search string number 1 to those 3. We also apply a different search string number 2, to the same 3 databases, Dimensions, Scopus, and Web of Science. And the reason why I didn't apply it to aquatic sciences and fisheries abstracts and open access theses and dissertations is because those databases, right, they don't allow you to do a nested search like the one on the right hand side, right? So because there's a nesting within here, the title is underwater or marine and noise or sound, and you have the abstract. So because of this nesting, you can't do anything like that. So here's ASFA, right? You can only add, one line in a field and or one line in a field. There's no way to actually do more advanced nesting, like, for example, Web of Science, where you can really do a lot of fantastic nesting. You can do ands, ors, you can combine, different searches with knots, and you can do a lot, right? So sometimes to understand the parity between strings, and also, like, you develop a string, but that doesn't mean that string you can use in every single database. So sometimes you have to understand that this is as good as you're going to get for particular databases, and you have to create some parity between those. So let's jump in and let's do the deduplication and run through that real quick. Oh, and I need to show you filters as well. Let's go to the manual deduplication. And we have those same 2 articles, and I'm going to leave right there. I'm going to remove them, and let's jump over to visualization. Again, we have the heat map, not as useful in this case, and it's just a pretty large overview. But this is where it gets really cool, because again, this use case, we're looking at 3 different databases and 2 strings, but you could imagine, you could actually you could use just Web of Science, and you could have 10 strings. So you could change truncation, you could change how it's nested, you could change what fields you're looking at. You might say, oh, this one we're going to do topic searching, which I don't like because of certain things that Web of Science does, like the using the text from all of the citations that cite the article, the title, or at least the titles. But so you could do what are the results in a topic search versus a title and abstract search versus a title and abstract and keyword search, right? And so this is just one example, but you could be looking at a ton of different strings. And let's take a look. 179 citations were found using both strings in all 3 databases, right? So tells you something, but let's take a look at this. 34 citations were found in Scopus and Dimensions using both strings, but not in Web of Science. So we know that those are just going to be ones that aren't in Web of Science. And then you also see a group of 16, they're found in Web of Science and Scopus, but not Dimensions. But then you see here, there's 5 citations that were found using the Web of Science 2, Scopus 2, and Dimensions 2, right? And so let's take a look at that again, right? So we have 2 search strings that are really similar, and it would really take somebody who knows search to really explain why they're different. And it still takes a little bit of time. It still goes, and it can be confusing, right? Sometimes you can get tripped up in your own search and you're like, what is that? Why is that doing that? Or, but this is what's cool is it makes it really simple to understand how your strings are operating. And it just helps you validate your strings so much better. So let's take a look at those just real quick. So we have these 5 citations, right, that are covered using that second string. So I don't need to dissect this for you because we can look at them really quickly and you'll be able to see why we caught those when we didn't catch the other ones, when the first string didn't catch those. So let's take a look at this. We have Web of Science 2. And then I'll just flip this. All right, cool. So, all right. So here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, citations that were found using the second string. Let's just take a look at these first 2. So I'm going to open these up. All right. Likely sensitivity of bottlenose dolphins to pile driving noise. So I'll give you the answer right here. But so you have, right, underwater or marine was required to be in the title, right, or the abstract, but it had to be with noise and pile driving in this, right? So that simple search, while it caught almost all the other articles, it could not catch something that didn't have underwater or marine separate from that pile driving. It had to be combined. So if you take a look at this, you have these two articles, and you have 5 more, right? That or you have 5 in total. That because those search strings were just nested a little bit different and developed a little bit different, they were found, and the search string 1 did not find them. And so you could, as you're analyzing all of these, visualization. Again, this could be 6, 7, 8 different strings, 10 different strings from one database, and you can check it out. And so that's helpful to a point, but really it's so much more powerful when then you add in your benchmarking articles. So I'm going to throw my benchmarking articles in here now, right? So I just mark it as BM, and we have 20 of them. Okay, I'm going to go to automated deduplication again. I'm going to run that again. So if I add another file and I just run the automated deduplication again, it's just going to rerun everything for you. And then you have to go through, you do have to do the manual again after that. And we're going to remove those. And now let's take a look at that visualization again, because this is what's awesome, right? Now I can validate which of my strings, which of my databases are doing the most work right off the bat. 10 benchmarking articles were found across all 3 databases using both strings. Look at this, 3 articles, benchmarking articles, right, that we know we would include because we've already determined that and we're using them from the beginning, were found only using that second search string. And so that just tells us, right, that string is better. And this is, again, a very simple example of just a different nesting, but there are so many different variations and so many different things we are doing with our search string and evidence synthesis, and different ways we're building them and applying them in different databases, rewriting syntax, that it's really hard to do this kind of manually and doing it in EndNote or Zotero or like keeping track of it on a spreadsheet. This tells you right away. And what's great about this, as I will go through, is all of this, like once I've run that analysis, I can download that as a CSV. I'm going to go back up to the file upload. I'm going to reload this for you. And then I'm just going to take my downloads. I'm going to drop that in there. Let me go to visualization. There you have it. So all the work that you did in identifying duplicates, tagging, and everything like that, you simply just export it as a CSV and you can keep this. And it's accessible later, or share it with your team. They can go and create the table, everything like that. Oh, let me look at this for you real quick too. The filters, right? So if I go, well, what if I didn't search Web of Science 1, Scopus 1, Dimensions 1? So this is reactive. Immediately you can see, again, kind of like the overlap between your benchmarking articles and the search strings. So this way you're able to look at not just the search strings, but now I'm able to quickly just go, okay, let me just take a look at the bang for my buck for the different sources of information. And again, these can be more than just databases. This can be really anything. The citation chasing on your benchmarking articles, only backward citation on your articles, only forward citation chasing on your articles. You can break it down in multiple ways. So it's really kind of like sky's the limit in terms of, as long as you can define where the information came from, you can analyze how, how much impact it has. And so let's go to the last use case, and I hope I'm leaving enough time. Okay, great. I'll try to get through this one quicker because I would love to hear from everybody and answer questions. All right, let's go to desktop, use case 4. And this was kind of the initial back of the napkin kind of idea of like, how do we figure out impact after everything's done? How do I know what was actually useful for me? How do I know like that call for papers was worth like the 100 man hours that went into it, right? It's crazy. I just don't know. So first off, I'm going to change this final. So this was everything that was included in the final systematic review or systematic map, right? And then this is everything that made it pass screening. So I'm going to change those to final and screened instead of search. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to remove their source name. This is a part of it, the tricky part about the package. And so if you have something labeled as final or screened, it can't have a source name, and that's just because of the way that it's written. And I do have that as a kind of note in here. Anytime you upload a citation file, this little overview, kind of tagging overview, pops up. But that's just a caveat. All right, I'm going to go in and I'm going to deduplicate. And jump into manual. And let's see, I know those ones, and I'm just going to grab these 3, remove, and let's visualize. So again, this isn't very useful in this case. Upset plot, not very useful in this place. This is the last one, which I haven't shown you because it hasn't been relevant to the other use cases. This is the phase analysis. So what this was kind of like my initial kind of like what I thought, it could create. And so really thankful to especially Lucas Walrick, who helped, this was, the first visualization I think we built. I have dimensions too. I have a call for papers. I have paper citations. I have paper references. So these would be, I think we added like 3 papers of some benchmarking articles or 3 papers from, within the group, and then did backward citation chasing, forward citation chasing. So that would be forward. This would be backwards. And then we have Scopus and Web of Science. And so now I can see in this hypothetical review, right? This is not a real one. This is just data for an example for the paper that is coming out on CiteSource. In my initial search, right, you can see the number of unique items that came from each resource and everything that was duplicated in one or more other source. And so I can see like in this, the call for papers, wow, like that's huge, right? 13 citations in the end that were unique that we would not have found anywhere else. So just, if you think about this, if we start reporting this type of information, imagine how much that tells us about the impact and the utility of our different methodologies. And and the data's there. I mean, this stuff is very, very easy. We're already pulling all these citations. Just tagging them and deduplicating them in this way teaches us so much about what is actually providing impact, what we should be spending our time on, how our search strings should be structured, or and you can show all this, right? It's really nice because you just export a CSV, and all of this is available to anybody who's reviewing your search strategy, while none of this stuff was available before. And in this case, there's studies within a review. So you could take a review that's already done and take a look at all of the different resources that were used, or combine multiple reviews and all of the all the papers they looked at. But again, paper citation. So this would be citation chasing. So in this case, there was no, and again, this is all hypothetical. This is just an example. There is no impact by doing citation chasing, right? Because we can see that in the end, after screening, there was only 2 included here, 4 included in that, and all of that was duplicate. Scopus, Web of Science, and so you can see those. Finally, the tables. I would love to get into these a lot more. I know I didn't really cover these as I went through, but this is the initial imported records. This is the number of records after internal deduplication, because there are duplicates that come from within sources at times. The number of unique records, non-unique records, and then there's the source contribution, the unique contribution. And so all of these are kind of laid out here. Precision and sensitivity. So this is a really helpful table that comes from from other works that have been done. I don't know why I'm spacing on her name, because I reference her so much. Oh, this is awful. I will pull it out of my brain. But this will provide precision, sensitivity recall calculations. And it kind of goes into, how many distinct records, number of screened, number of final included. And again, this is just another way to calculate impact after everything is said and done. So I'm going to stop there. And I know I've gone through a lot. Okay, I'm going to show one last use case just real quick, because it's one of the things that, I don't know, it always annoys me as a user of Web of Science. Oh, shoot. Cite Source, I'm going to go vignettes, benchmark data. Okay, you can only export, and I'll do it real quick. You can only export what? 1,000, right? Yeah, 1,000. And I'm just going to go here, go to 3.5. 1,000 citations from Web of Science at a time. And so a lot of people ask, well, how do I do that? If I have, 10 different RIS files that are related to one search, how do I figure that out? Oh, I just dropped it on top of these ones, but I'll show you. But if you want to consider one source as, or multiple files as as a single source, all you would do is you would name them with the same source. So all of these are kind of just different exports from the same search, because it only allows you 1,000, right? So if I did this and then I saved it, when I see the upset plot, I'm going to have, for example, search 3, right, is going to have 4,214 in it, and they're not going to be separated. So that's another way, just in case anybody had any questions about how you might do that. Just by giving it the same source label, it will combine them. Just like if I did paper citations and paper references, and I wanted to consider that just citation chasing in general as a method, and not kind of distinguish, is it forward or is it backwards? I could also just combine these and say, citation chase or something like that. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to stop, and I'm happy to answer questions. And sorry,
I got go ahead, sorry.
Allison Bethel's Allison Bethel's search summary tables. Sorry about that's that last table for precision and sensitivity. Her paper on search summary tables was a foundation to my thinking around this as well. So sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trevor, for this. I've been thinking about, as you were talking about it, I have sort of a conceptual question. It's really clear to me how this tool can help us study the effectiveness of our searches, right? Sort of evaluating that bang for our buck, right, in terms of time, resources. I'm thinking about how that plays into the broader like open science movement. And you alluded to this, like imagine if we started reporting these things, how much we could know about not just the information we're getting, but how we get there. How do you see this helping inform transparency, replicability? What are the things we ought to describe from these processes in our papers to sort of help meet those sort of aims of open science?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's hard. I think it's hard to answer. I think I might have like pieces of ideas. And I think it probably depends in where you are in different fields. But I see it as similar to like the Prisma flow diagram, right? So the Prisma flow diagram, I feel like was when I saw that, it was like, oh, this is fantastic. It gives me such a clear idea of like a visual representation of what happened and how you know where they searched, how many records they had, how many got screened, how many were included, how many were... So if you take that to just a deeper level, I think where you start to see, okay, here's where they searched, but here's also what made we hear this resources that made an impact. And I think like take the example of like a study within a review. And I'm not sure if folks are familiar with SWAR stuff. I think it's a relatively new idea. But let's say if you took 10 systematic reviews on a particular topic that were all relatively in the same field, and you were to have the data or if they reported all of this information, you'd see some trends and you'd be able to understand that like these methodologies give you a better return on your investment in time. And so when we're talking about speeding things up, we're trying to increase, the efficiency at which we can do evidence synthesis. That's one way we can, do this. The other part is the search string. I can read an article that was printed 10 years ago that tells me that, the potentially the best combinations of databases that I want to search if I'm doing research in a particular area. But even as an information professional who keeps track of these things, like stuff is moving so fast with databases and indexing and everything like that, that like that information might be out of date. And as much as I feel I know, like intrinsically as somebody who's searching on a daily basis, I just kind of like know these systems like they're a friend almost. Like I know what they're going to give me. I can like predict the number of the results I'm going to get from a search and pretty accurately sometimes. I don't have there's no proof when I just say like, hey, I searched this and I use this string. And so I think it's just a way to kind of show what we're already doing in a way to make it more transparent. And also there's other use cases for this, right? Like education, like for training and education for people who don't know about evidence synthesis or don't know about searching, library science, education, or folks who are, not, in library science or information science, library collection development, so, and then also like just understanding the methodologies, like citation chasing. open web searching, gray literature searching, like these things take a lot of time. How impactful are they? I don't know anybody has that answer right now. But if we start reporting on these things, we start to get a better understanding. And I think that I don't have like it's not a silver bullet. But I think what we tried to do here was not add any extra work. Like it's not extra. Like you can take everything that you're doing right now and put it in here, and it just makes it easier for you. And not only does it make it easier for you, it can teach you. Like I found problems with search strings because of truncation that I screwed up because it had a huge number of results for this one database. And I was like, I guess I didn't translate that syntax correctly. And then we go and look, oh, yep, look, it's pulling all this crap. And I would have found that eventually, but it would have taken me a lot longer. And I just use CiteSource instead. So I think like there's so many different ways you can apply this. I hope I somewhat answered your question, Derek. I can't hear you, Carl. Were you talking? Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think my AirPods just finally quit on me there. Yeah, I just wanted to invite anyone else for additional questions or comments. I think we have time for one more. We all taught during COVID, so we know about wait time on Zoom. Don't test me, y'all.
And there's a lot that I threw out there. I mean, it takes a bit to digest, and sometimes I'm still digesting different parts of this. So it's no problem if people don't have questions now. I'm happy to, folks can reach out to me directly. They can go to the GitHub site. There's a discussion tab within the project page, and they can post questions or issues there. So always happy to chat later too. So
Well, I'll just end by saying this is so excellent. I was just meeting with a doctoral student yesterday talking about databases and which ones and why he needed to search multiple databases and how he could compare. And I was just like, come Friday and you will have all your answers. This is perfect. So, such a useful contribution. Thank you for coming. The recording will be available as well in a couple weeks. But thank you so much for the SIG. Just a heads up that decisions came out for our annual conference in April. I think they came out in early November. So if you got accepted, congratulations. We're excited to see you in LA. And the schedule will be available January 16th, 2026, which sounds weird to say, but that's my own cue of saying Happy New Year and hope 2025 and the end of it goes well. Thanks so much, y'all.